sometimes leaders need to be quiet and need to let others have a voice. And again, I think you want your team to be well represented by themselves, to have a voice. And if you're the only one in the room talking, then nobody else will jump in.
Welcome to the What's the Point podcast with Point. All right, y'all. Welcome to What's the Point podcast. I'm Nate Smith, the digital creative director here at Point, and I'm here with my co-host, the esteemed Raul Espinosa. And today we're super excited because we have the lovely, hyper-intelligent, amazing leader of Point, Susan Owen, in the house. Everybody, cue the applause. The CEO. Oh my gosh, this is big. Okay, so in this episode of What's the Point, we sit down with Susan, CEO of Point, a full-service agency based here in Plano, Texas. With decades of experience in marketing leadership, Susan brings an insightful, no-nonsense approach to how the industry is changing and what business owners need to do to keep up. We wrote this stuff, by the way, from AI content strategy to the rise of transparency and thought leadership. This episode unpacks the seismic shifts happening in marketing today. And whether you're a small business trying to figure it out or a brand leader rethinking your approach, Susan's going to offer us some sharp advice, big picture thinking, and maybe a few bold predictions along the way. We're going to get into it. Susan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah. How are you?
Good. Happy to see you.
Thanks.
You're all over the place these days. I'm like, where's Susan, man? She's running all over.
Yeah, I don't sit still for long.
No, you don't. I don't think you can afford to.
It's been a personal journey there.
Yeah, no, that's good. Actually, it's so funny because we were just jumping right into it. We were just watching Thomas, your son. He's throwing a big graduation shindig for all his classmates and raising money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation at the same time. It was just on Fox 4 News, which is really awesome.
We had to delay this recording just to see my little entrepreneur, Thomas. So he's a little rock star. So I'm really excited and really proud of both he and his twin brother, Ben. Yeah,
they came by the entrepreneurial bug, honestly, didn't they?
Yes.
We're
all entrepreneurs in our family, it seems.
Your hub, Steve, as well, too, right? He's a business guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. So we're going to get into a lot of things today, and I'm really excited to talk to you about them because you have such amazing insights, and are an entrepreneur yourself, have had your own business, Berkshire Biomedical, right? So you've been down this path before, and also you've been back at Point because you were at Point previously. You were the CEO of Point back in the gap, like from. Was it like 2000?
In the very early days, really, 30 years ago when we were spun off from Tracy Locke.
Yeah.
And we were reforming Point, and there was a group of 5 of us, and we restarted from the ground up. So it was really a fun time sitting around saying, what do we want to do? What do we want to accomplish? And what do we want Point to be?
Yeah.
And it was really a fun ride.
Yeah, and a lot's changed in that amount of time. I mean, we've come so far as a world, as in the marketplace, as agencies are transitioning and evolving over that amount of time. And that's some of what I want to get into today, like with you, and really get your perspective on kind of where things are right now, and how what we do plays into it. Your thoughts around it. Where do you think the space is going? To really get heavily into that part of things. So I want to jump right in with this. So you've been leading teams and building brands for a while now, for most of your career.
Yes.
What keeps you excited about marketing?
What keeps me excited isn't just the marketing. I think it's about building teams and really looking at people's strengths and trying to assemble a well-rounded team based on a lot of differences that we each have. I love team building, and I love to work with different people. And the marketing space has changed dramatically, in 30 years. I mean, just imagine. And obviously the internet came on, and cell phones, and digital, and what is digital? And everybody's got a different definition of that. Yeah. And how you reach consumers and businesses is very different. And I think it will continue to evolve. I think AI is here to stay. And I think we have to embrace it and really look at it as another tool for how do we do our jobs well
Yeah.
And how do we get the benefits out of it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things when we talked, when you first came back on, you and I talked a lot about putting the right people in place and how magic can happen when you have the right people on your team, people that are fired up, that want to come in and create change. I like to call them linchpins. Seth Godin has a really great book called Linchpin. A big fan of Seth Godin, by the way. If you guys haven't read it, you should read Linchpin. It's an awesome book. It's about people that come in and look for opportunities to create positive change, no matter what the circumstances are. They just get the lay of the land, and they want to help any way that they can to add value to the mix. And I think that's really that's the mentality that you brought right from the get-go, is just like, we're going to make some shifts, but it's going to be for the better. It's going to be making positive changes and making sure that we have the right team, the right people in place, and it's going to create everything the point is and everything that we become to this day.
And the right people doing the right jobs.
Yeah.
You have a lot of different talent. You just need to make sure they're in the right locations and doing the right things that are really pulling on their strengths.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you think about marketing today, what's one trend that you've seen that you think maybe is a little bit overrated or over talked about? And then what do you think, because we talked about AI, right? That's certainly one thing, and one that maybe you think is a little bit underrated. Like, what do people not talk enough about, or what needs to have more attention brought to it?
I think the most important thing is not any one thing that maybe isn't as important. I think the most important thing is consistency. And I think most people and a lot of businesses fall short on consistency.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like anything in life. It's a philosophy. Do you get up every day and are you consistent? Or are you only there and really there 50% of the time? So to me, marketers have to be consistent, and they have to be doing things on a consistent basis. Otherwise, you have peaks and valleys, but you don't build upon that effectively if there isn't consistency. So I think that's probably the most important thing. I don't think, if you look at all the different avenues for how to market your business, that any one thing is more important than the other. I think you have to look at a company's business goals and say, what are we trying to accomplish? What are our challenges? And then you kind of back into what becomes the most important avenues. You might be doing some things really well, and you just need to add to that. So each circumstance, each business, even within each category, there's not a silver bullet to anything. You really have to be very strategic in how you approach things.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that you mentioned something that I really loved there, where you said it's not so much a business philosophy as is it a life philosophy. Right?
It's a life
principle. I think that especially from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I'm sure Thomas would probably agree with this, is that you have to be really regimented. You almost have to have an athlete's state of mind. You have to get up and you have to have such a regiment and know what you're doing every day. Kobe Bryant calls it Mamba mentality, right? Mm-hmm. Kobe Bryant says you have to get up and you have to know what your purpose is every day that you wake up, and you have to do everything that you can to work towards it.
It's a marathon. It's really not a sprint.
Oh my gosh.
And if you try to turn it into a quick hit or a sprint, you're going to be disappointed. It is a marathon, and every day, every time you think, okay, it's getting really hard, maybe we just fail at something, whatever that may be. That's when you need to push through. Yeah. And I think the resilience as a person and as a business leader and as even teammates, when things kind of turn south, you got to just push through it. Man. If clients' businesses are having some challenging times, those that really push into the wind will gain leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. When they pull in their horns, we're pushing out. Yeah. And so sometimes you got to go against the grain a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's amazing advice. That's sage advice from somebody who's seasoned. That can only be gained with experience. And I think that the power of perseverance is such a powerful thing. And to know your son's namesake, Thomas Edison, said, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just found 10,000 ways not to do something. Right? You have to know that nothing's really, if you gain something from it, a knowledge set, nothing's ever really a failure. You just learn something that you needed to know.
Yeah, right? One of my favorite sayings is sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, because it's, you know, a lot of the mistakes things that we view as mistakes, or it's actually really great learning experiences.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I just love that saying.
This is why
It's part of evolving is to stub your toe a bit and keep moving.
Yeah.
This is why I love Susan so much, man. Y'all need to pay attention today because she's going to bring it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about creative leadership, right? So how do you approach? We talked a little bit about your leadership here at Point, but how do you approach leadership at a creative agency where it might be a little bit different from like the idea of traditional leadership?
I think you've got to remain flexible. And I think you have to allow the creative process to happen and let people do their jobs and put the right people in the right positions. It goes back to knowing each other's strengths. And here at Point, we really talk about that a lot, even in our leadership meeting. When it's time to take a place, hey, that's not your sweet spot. Let's move you over here. And so I think it goes back to allowing people to be creative and giving them room to breathe, and not, while we have to have structure to get things done on a timely fashion for our clients, you have to allow that creative process to happen. And I think creativity comes from all people, and I don't think you have to have a creative title, but I think young people, middle-aged people, I think great ideas come from everybody. And it's not really even an experience thing. Some of the youngest, some are creative by nature, some are not. But, wow, some of the ideas just blow you away and where they come from. So I think you have to have an environment that breeds that. And part of the reason I like being face-to-face is you don't lose that momentum of what happens. It's like magic in a bottle. When you put a bunch of really smart people in a room and you explore different ideas, the amount of magnitude that increases through just good ideas is unbelievable. And you can't do that on Teams, and you can't do that on Zoom. And then if people kind of really like each other and it's a really good team together, they feel well supported, and then they feel vulnerable to give good ideas. And I think that's really important.
It's so funny that you say that. Number one, we talked about the good ideas can come from anywhere. We say that a lot. Within our own business to each other, we're always like, hey, man, good ideas. That's why we hold our big team brainstorms, because
they're the best.
They come from the most unexpected places, and they're so much fun. And I think that, you always have to have the mind that many minds are greater than one. So you can have a title, but really if you're just inherently that way, and I kind of feel like no matter, especially at Point, that's a big thing. We're a small but nimble company, but I think that everybody here, regardless of their title, is a creator in some capacity, whether we talk about people having their social influencers, people doing their own thing on the outside of here, having their creative hobbies. People are just sort of inherently creative problem solvers here. And that's what makes the team so great. If I can do another shameless plug
right?
real quick.
This is turned into like shameless. No, but it's great though, because it's one of the things that I love about here is nobody really has an ego.
Yeah.
And so I think that's great, and I think oftentimes at other agencies or other places, like a lot of ideas get shot down because of titles or, where it's coming from, who it's coming from. And that's one of the things I love about here is there's no egos.
I think we celebrate each other's victories and the great ideas that can come from anywhere. And I think we like to celebrate each other. And so it makes for a very open environment for people to share.
Yeah.
Coming to work every day, and I tell the team this all the time, like, these guys, all you guys are the reason that I love to come in every day. It's not, the work is the work, right? The work is going to be what it is, and you get excited about it, and it's great, and we do, because look at what we get to do every day. I mean, think about it. Like we talked about roofing in July in Texas in the middle of the summer. It's like, oh my God, poor souls up there doing that, because I wouldn't last 5 minutes. I mean, look at me. I'd be the color of your shirt, Susan, your blouse. But we get to come in, and I think that's one of the greatest parts of it is that you got a bunch of positive people that are excited about what we do, come in, support each other. And when things get challenging, that's what you need. You got to have that support structure.
Yeah,
and that's a testament to we talk about creative leadership, a big part of it being you got to know who to put in what chair. And I think that's really a testament to your leadership, is that you've been able to pull together this amazing team. And that came with a lot of, we've been through a lot of talks and interviews and things with people to get here, but it's paid off, with what we've been able to achieve. And it's a
building
part of
blocks
your
along
legacy.
the way. It's building blocks.
I'm not gassing you up though. I really believe this.
No, I know.
So let me ask you this, Susan. So let's get a little bit more granular. So looking around, because I know you pay attention to a lot. You do your diligence. You're constantly coming to the table with, hey, you know what I saw yesterday? What's a marketing campaign, one that wasn't one that we did, or not one of your own in your entrepreneurial endeavors, that made you stop and say, that was smart. That was really great.
I am a big believer in a lot of different things. I think the one that sticks out in my mind is Apple. And
we're laughing because we talked about
same
Apple.
one.
Because we've talked
Well,
about it.
I mean,
no, because they're great. It's
they
nice.
really are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think what I like about it is it's very simple.
Yeah.
And it's intuitive, and you get the message. And I think they're phenomenal marketers.
They are.
And we actually went to the Apple headquarters when my kids were young,
Yeah.
and that was one of their dream trips.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, in California, we went into the Apple store, which had all the logoed items, and this lady that was helping us kind of fell in love with Thomas. Said, would you like to come in for lunch? And we're like, wow, we can get behind the pearly gates,
Yeah.
And we got in and we got to eat in the cafeteria. And then I remember walking down this long hallway, and it was a saying from Steve Jobs, which is, okay, what's your next, what's the next big thing? And if you think about it, it's such a simple statement.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you were great today, but what are you doing tomorrow? And you never stop to evolve and to change and to look at where the world's going and how are you as marketers moving in that direction, and what's the next big thing? What is it? And so I think you always have to be questioning what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be the one thing that kind of comes to mind.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, Apple. We talked a lot about Apple, and we're fan.
Yeah,
people,
I like to say I'm an
fangirls.
Apple fanboy, but
I am too. I am
just
totally.
because even their logo, as an
It's
example,
just simple.
it's so simple. It's almost frustrating how simple it is.
Even
Because you're
the way
like, how do they come up with something so simple?
If I go off on a tangent real quick, look at how they've impacted everything from the way people are packaging their stuff now. Apple, you could almost say Apple is the reason that people even do unboxing videos.
Yeah.
Because they made it an experience. Every facet of everything they did, it was so well thought out. Shout out to Johnny Ive, who was their product designer and came up with a lot of those ideas. But also, in the same breath, trying to be sustainable as well. They care about, they're really driving things. And we talked earlier about how impactful they are and how much they actually dictate the direction of the market.
Yeah.
Not just in tech, just in general. From automakers, any other people that you look at, they followed that Apple template. They have been so impactful, which is really a testament to the work that Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak did. Mm-hmm. Just when they started.
Well,
the
and
company.
then when you say packaging, the other one that comes to mind is Drunk Elephant.
That's a good one too.
Even just getting their emails, they're so clever.
Mm-hmm.
And
For those who don't know, what's Drunk Elephant? I actually don't know.
It's
either,
a cosmetic face cream and beauty.
Beauty line.
It's a whole beauty line, but it's all healthy products, and the packaging is absolutely amazing. Everything's really simple and bright. And when you get the box, you're like, whoa, this is really cool. You open it up and it's got a lot of bright color.
Yeah.
And the email campaigns are very cleverly written, and it really makes you take notes. So that's another one.
That's awesome. What's something, let's talk a little bit about business owners and kind of their perception of marketing today. What do you think is one thing that business owners may still not understand or get about marketing as it stands in 2025?
I think different business owners have had good and bad experience with different marketing folks. Sometimes they bring it in-house because they think, oh, gosh, we can save money. And then you realize that creative nature is kind of missing in a corporate setting. And then you'll see trends of companies outsourcing the teams.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of in-source, outsource. And over the years, you get to see that trend. So that's one thing that I've noticed. Everyone thinks you can build it, and then you kind of get back to what's your core competency and what's your business and what are you really good at. And I think it's kind of knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are and what you do well. So I think that's one thing. And then I think if you're with the right partner, they can really be an extension of your team. And you can get so many more great insights and ideas, even outside of their normal team, just by using a great agency that gets building brands, but not for creative or creative sake. It's truly understanding the business goals and how you go about, really writing a strategic plan to meet those goals. So I would say that as well.
That's really great. And I think we've talked a lot about a scalpel is a very complex instrument, but it's a very different result when it's in the hands of a child versus a skilled surgeon. Yes. Not to call anybody a child, but from an understanding perspective and a studied perspective, right? You have to know, and again, we function that way too as a bolt-on to a lot of companies, and we work with internal marketing teams, right? So where people do have those who can facilitate internally, because there are so many tools at everyone's disposal. People have they're much more savvy than they were, and everybody has these avenues to be able to do certain things. But somebody who's studied or seasoned in a certain area is going to help you be much more effective.
We presented a new brand. It's a company that's just getting launched and has been existing for a bit. And we came up with literally starting from their logo. They had one that they had created. And when we got done with the presentation, just seeing the amount of thought that goes into building a brand and the strategy and the thought that even goes into design is kind of like Rembrandt when they said, well, how could you do that in 5 hours? And it was, I learned it over 40 years. How to do it in 5 hours. But you can't replace just quickness with a learned and an experienced skill. And I think it goes into depth of thought that you think of every detail that some don't even pay attention to. So if you're with the right people that are really in the boat with you and want to see your business succeed, it's a very different feel from a relationship perspective. Yeah.
So would you say that's probably what makes an agency like our own more valuable to a business today beyond just executable deliverables? Is a strategic partner that is tailored to your business, that understands your goals and functions almost as people inside your business. Would you say that's probably
absolutely. And I think the more information that you share, we are data-driven at Point. So we really like to look at facts.
Sure.
And many of our customers literally give us the keys to all their sales so we can analyze them and know where we're going. And I think understanding and being data-driven and data-informed is the key to the future. And you say, okay, well, everybody thinks that. Not everybody does think that, but not looking at the data along the way, I think you're not going to ever get a silver bullet all the time, but you start the tweaking process, and through that, I think you start refining.
Yeah, it's never a set it and forget it kind of thing. It's constant optimization. But I think that we talked about that a little bit with Jay, where we got into balancing creativity and the insights to not lean too far one way, but allow the other to inform the data to inform creative, to allow you to make better decisions with your messaging.
Well, and even what's the best approach for this business problem, and what are the best tools to bring? That's a very specific reason why Point was built the way it was, is self-reliance We can control our deadlines because we have people in-house. We have people that are working full-time in-house.
Yeah.
And we're in control of our own destiny. And I think from that comes a much greater strength that we bring.
Yeah. So that's a really great segue, Susan. So if somebody's coming in, so let's say somebody's looking to hire an agency partner, right? They come in, and if they're listening to everything you're saying and they're thinking about, man, I really need an agency to help me solve these problems for my business. What questions should they come in and ask first? Like when you go through that, generally we come in and how we do like a mini discovery with people just to kind of find out where they are currently. We've probably done some level of an audit. What questions should the business come in to ask the agency when they're looking to score a partner that's going to be best for what they do?
First, I think just being authentic. Those conversations that go best are those where they're just real people. They come in, they get to know you as an individual or as a team. They get to know you as a person. It brings down the barriers, it brings down the walls. And then I think understanding the philosophies of the company, the marketing company, like what are you about? Like what's your vision? What's your mission and vision? Because from that, everything else evolves. So it'll say what is most important to you. And that's a really good question. And then I think just understanding what the agency gets excited about and what they think they're really good at. And a lot of people ask that. What are you good at? You can't be good at everything. And truly, you can be good at many things because you have various team members that have various skill sets. And so to build an integrated company that thinks from all regards, you have to build it where you have strengths in each of the different core competencies.
I think that's something we talked a lot about where, many of the people that we talked to, one of the things that we talked about was when we went through a rebrand last year, and one of the things we talked about was point being both a noun and a verb. We try to help point you in the right direction so you can arrive at the point you're meant to be at, but we help make sense of the chaos because marketing is so disparate nowadays and a lot of people working with different agencies. But to have a true full service agency, they're not really that common anymore. I mean, you have some of the bigger ones, right? McCann and those folks, but a smaller shop, especially that has some of the strengths that we do, again, shameless plug, but that's part of this, right? is understanding what you can bring to the table. But also, I think you made a really good point. When people come in to talk to us, we do our best to really try to lower any kind of friction. We just talk to people because, look, we can show you a beautiful deck.
Everybody's just a person.
Yeah.
And I think really getting to peel back what are people about and what do they get excited about.
Yeah.
And what are they driven towards and what are their passions? I think it just naturally comes out. And then I think you can evaluate those that are really the ones that are going to work really hard for you.
Yeah.
And not everybody wants to get in the boat, even if it's a really hard boat to get into, because, there's a lot of different businesses in different stages. But those that will get in the good times, those that will get in the bad times and really row, I think they're special kinds of people. And I think always having in mind what the goals are really important. So I think just getting to know the people and the philosophies and what we're driven for, I think is really most important.
That's fantastic. So with that said, understanding business leaders and looking for ways that they can help to problem solve for their whatever their business is. Let's get into a little bit about if you have an emerging leader or entrepreneur who's starting a business, right? How can they start positioning themselves as thought leaders? We talk a lot about trusted advisorship and being able to position yourself as a leader in the space, somebody should look to as a trusted advisor to know that they know what they're talking about and someone you can trust with helping you with those business decisions. How can someone get into that space without sounding overly self-promotional?
I think, again, it goes back to just being a person and speaking from the heart, which some people can do really well and some people are not comfortable with that. But you just have to get to the authentic person. Yeah. And I think thought leadership is seen in lots of different ways. It can be in how you conduct a meeting. It can be in how you treat your people. It
Yeah.
can be in written format with white paper. It can be in having a voice out in social media where you have a point of view on something.
Yeah.
And so I think thought leadership is seen in lots of different ways. And it's not always about me as the leader, but my team and their collective thoughts, because thought leadership, again, can come from anywhere. And so I think you just have to have a voice, and I think you have to show a little personality and kind of like what you're about. So I think not communicating is a mistake.
Yeah, personality. I'm wearing this hat. That should say everything you need to know about me.
I know, right? Well, it's a lot of it's about personal branding.
Yeah,
and,
that's true,
personal
too.
branding and
I
thought
was just about
leadership
to
kind of
ask.
goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I think anyone can do it. To your point, Susan, anybody can do it. Anybody.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the title at work to be out on social media and to be a thought leader. And I think a lot of people nowadays are looking for that when they're on social
Absolutely.
media, right?
And just because you have a title doesn't mean you're a leader. And
Right.
I think
Holy smokes.
I think that's really most important too. I mean, title doesn't give you the keys to the kingdom. You have to earn it. And I think you have to lead with a vision where people believe in what you guys are trying to accomplish and want to get behind it. And that to me is the exciting part. And that's where the passion comes.
That's incredible, Susan. I think that one thing we don't talk enough about, I think you've heard a lot more about it in recent years. I heard Brian say this, CEO of Bar Louie said at their GM conference last week, emotional intelligence is like really high up on their list of things to work with people on, because and it's some things, sometimes it's an inherent thing that you're just kind of you have instinctually, but you can learn emotional intelligence. You can learn how to be an emotionally intelligent person, and a lot of it boils back to empathy. But I think that you being able to cast vision, I think one of the things you said was it's not just being able to come to the table with vision, it's being able to inspire hope. Because people have to believe in and hope for better and know that they can get behind it and that they're pushing towards something greater. How would you feel about that?
And then when you accomplish a goal or a step towards a goal, then it creates so much celebration because it's earned and felt by the entire team. And it's not ever just one person most of the time. And so I think inspiration has got to be there in any business. You've got to build the dream. But without your team, you're nothing. So to me, teamwork is truly what it's about.
Somebody told me one time, one of my mentors in college said, those people that say it's lonely at the top, they didn't get there. They didn't go about getting there the right way, because you should be at the top with all the people that you put around you to help your team get there. Right.
Yeah, I think when they say that, there's a lot of things I think you shield from your team, which are points of pain that you don't necessarily feel are inspirational for people. And so sometimes at the top, you've got to do some hard things too. Or figure out something that's really complex, or, and you don't like to drag everybody through, some of the things that you're thinking about, or challenges that are thrown your way. And so sometimes it can be a little bit isolating, just because you protect your people, and it's like you protect your kids.
Yeah.
And sometimes the kids aren't ready for certain stages, so you try to shield them for that.
That's true.
And so I think that's where it's felt sometimes.
Yeah.
And there's a time and a place.
I think there's we should probably do a whole other episode on sort of the isolationist stance that you have to take sometimes as an entrepreneur, as a leader in the space, especially as a leader of a company. I think that's an underrated skill set that a lot of leaders, especially in your position, and anybody who's a leader in any capacity, probably has, right?
Some things you got to just
point.
You have to dig deep within yourself.
Yeah.
And you can't really always rely on other people to solve any problem.
Wow.
Sometimes you got to make hard decisions, and and you don't like everybody to have to live every moment with you.
Yeah.
And some people don't even know decisions are being made, but I think being transparent, though, in where we are and where we're going is really important, because I do think people need to understand.
Do you feel that there's, in an industry where, we get, obviously we're compensated for the work that we do, but some of it sometimes can be a little bit thankless in some ways? Not that most clients are really great. They'll tell you that they're grateful for you and they're happy to work with you. Do you feel, when you have to make those decisions, I want to dig into this a little bit because I really want your perspective. When you dig into having to make a tough decision like that, whether it be for the business or even as a parent, it's a very thankless thing. Is there some catharsis in it to know that you thought through it, you took the time, you were resilient, and you were able to reach a point where you were able to make that decision?
I think you can't wait. As far as leadership goes, I don't think you can always have 90% of the information to make decisions. Sometimes you only get about 75%. And as a leader with experience, you just have a gut feel and you just got to go with it.
Yeah.
And if you got to have 90% of the information, you get stuck in analysis paralysis, and then I think you miss opportunities. So I think some of it's an experience thing, and sometimes you mess it up, and sometimes you don't make the right call. And then you factor that into your learning experience. Even as a parent, you don't do it right all the time.
Yeah.
It's just part of, you do the best that you can with what you're equipped. And sometimes you get to the other side and you go, wow, that was a great call.
Yeah.
You just don't know all the time. So you just do the best you can with your intuitiveness, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Man, okay, so we'll jump ahead a little bit. So let's talk about why leaders need a voice. So I'm trying to think about this. Why do you think it's important for companies and their leaders to have a voice beyond just a product or a service? It kind of goes back to what you were saying a minute ago, being engaged.
It's the inspiration even behind a product or a service. There are some leaders, though, that are great at what they do, but they're not comfortable being the voice. And again, I think you want your team to be well represented by themselves, to have a voice. And if you're the only one in the room talking, then nobody else will jump in. And so sometimes leaders need to be quiet and need to let others have a voice. So, but I think you have to be seen, and people have to know where you're coming from. So that just requires basic communication.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny because Raul and I were talking today about people having to be okay with sort of being on camera a lot these days, because now you got guys like, you look at somebody like Gary Vee, who basically has somebody follow him around all day, every day, and then just cut a bunch of content together. And that's a little bit of a leap from what some people are used to, right? Some people are used to just kind of being able to go about their day, and maybe they get interviewed by the media or something like that. But to just have someone always on you like, hey, we need to grab this, because that's just the world we live in. I think it probably speaks pretty greatly to that point. It's like, hey, I may be okay getting up on stage to do a TED Talk, but to just be throwing up a bunch of stuff for social, it's kind of like, it's weird. I don't like the way I look on camera. I don't like the way I sound. Nobody likes sounding their own
I don't
voice.
think anyone likes it.
Nobody likes it. Yeah.
I mean, it's great though, because it's just a way to be very transparent, and for people to really get to know you. I think it's just so important nowadays to do it. And I really don't like being on camera. Yeah. But I mean, I'm used to being on the other side of the camera.
I think it's always, you always hear people say, like, you have to put words into action, because people don't know who you are on the inside. You know who you are on the inside, but other people don't. So we had talked a lot about, it's also a great way to share your journey, because that's something some people are going to be able to relate to. I was watching a content creator on YouTube the other night, and she's a musician. She said, a big part of being successful doing this is sharing your journey. Just share with people what you've gone through, because there's going to be somebody out there that has gone through something similar, maybe not the same thing, but something similar. It can really inspire somebody into action.
And it gets to be knowing the person, kind of like we talk about even in our leadership meetings. Sometimes we spend the first part of the meeting just talking about what's going on in our lives, and exciting things or successes or something really personal that was like, gosh, I got to share this. I'm so excited. And so I think it gets back to really knowing the person. And it's not just about, well, we've got business. Well, I'm all about the business.
Yeah.
And I'm all about getting down to business, but I also think you got to be people first, and you have to share life, because we spend a lot of time together, and part of going through the journey is sharing life, and I think that is part of the leadership role, and some do it better than others, and some purposely don't like to be that kind of a leader, but I personally think for what we do that it just gets a better product at the end.
Well, a big part of it is because there are a lot of places that say similar things, but if people like you and they feel connected to you, the likelihood that they're going to choose you as their partner or somebody they can trust to work with and have a good time with, because people have to like working with you.
You have to have excellent skills, and you have to have really good talent. That's a given.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, if they don't like you, like, who wants to do business? And life is short. Who wants to work with people they don't enjoy or they don't think really are, along for the long journey? Because it is a marathon, not a sprint.
That's very true. I think that's just good life advice too, because it's just you got to be ready for the long haul, and it's okay. There's going to be, for every mountaintop there may be a valley, but at least you're better prepared to wade through the valley for a little bit if you need to, and know that it's not the final stop. It's just one on the way. So Susan, this has been amazing. Like, just getting this insight from you and hear it from a business perspective, but also a life perspective, has just been beautiful. So I'm going to ask you this one question. It's a loaded one, but so take your time if you need to think about it. But so I want to talk a little bit about personal branding in the age of LinkedIn, especially as it pertains to business, right? Because we function heavily on LinkedIn. It's where a lot of our partners spend a lot of their time. So we put a heavy emphasis on the amount of marketing we do on LinkedIn and how we put our voice out. So how important is it for strong personal branding for CEOs and executives in 2025? Should leaders be visible and vocal on platforms like LinkedIn, or does that vary by industry, just based on what you've seen?
I think LinkedIn is a great communication vehicle for business people, because I think that's the next thing you do.
Yeah.
You have a great meeting, or you meet somebody over coffee, and then the next thing you do, you're looking at their LinkedIn. Because I think it gives you perspective on that person's journey and where they've been, and possibly what skills they've really kind of crafted along the way. So, and then people that they're linked in with, meaning who do they have relationships with? Oh my gosh, I know 10 of the people that I know that are business leaders. And so what are their careabouts? What are people they're following? Like, what's their inspiration? I think it gives you great insight, and so I'm a big fan of it, and I think it's important.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Is there anything else you want to share with the folks listening and watching today? This is the first go, and we're going to have many more like this, obviously. But this is so awesome because we've been looking forward to doing this for so long, and it's something we're really excited about. So it's just been wonderful having you on. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, just sharing the journey and being real.
Yeah,
and enjoying the time we have. And as you go to different stages in life, what becomes most important is the journey along the way with good people.
Yeah.
And being and surrounding yourself by those people. I've always said that with my kids when they were little, just, surround yourself by great people because they make you better. Yeah. And so I think everybody always learns. There's no leader that has it all figured out, but every day I learn something new. And I'm always striving, whether it's ebook in the car, I'm always learning. Mm-hmm. And I ask a lot of questions because I genuinely enjoy the journey. And so that's me, though. That's the journey. Yeah. And I love the journey.
Oh, we all know that we love having you, and we're so excited to be on this journey with you. So, Susan, thank you so much for coming on today. It's just been so beautiful and wonderful. You're amazing. We love you. And I want to thank my co-host, Raul Espinosa, the esteemed producer of the show, Susan Owen. Amazing insights, amazing perspective from a respected and lauded leader in the industry. And we're just so thankful that you're here. Guys, I'm Nate Smith. Thanks for joining us on the What's the Point podcast. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone.